Hello to everyone. I am Professor Raja, working as Assistant Professor EC Department, the SNS College of Technology, an autonomous institution Coimbatore. In this YouTube video, I am going to discuss about the modulation techniques. Basically, modulation is the process of adding a message signal with the carrier signal for some longest distance communication. In general, modulations are carried out in analog modulation and digital modulation. In analog modulation, three important parameters are there. One is the amplitude modulation, second one is the frequency modulation, and the third one is the phase modulation. Now, we are going to discuss about some important types of modulation techniques. So, in general, digital to analog conversion. Digital to analog conversion is the process of changing one of the characteristics of an analog signal based on the information in digital data. So in this PPT or YouTube video, I will discuss in this the following section. Why we go for digital to analog conversion, what is meant by amplitude shift keying and the representation method, what is meant by frequency shift keying and the representation method, finally the phase shift keying representation, and I will give some basics of QAM, that is quadrature amplitude modulation. This figure shows how the digital to analog conversion is happened. Digital to analog conversion is the process of changing one of the characteristics of an analog signal based on the information digital signal. So here if you see, digital data is transmitted and through link it is converted as analog signal, then finally it is received in digital data. Why we need digital modulation? Digital modulation is required if digital data has to be transmitted over a medium that only allows analog transmission. The main applications of this digital modulation are modems in wider network, wireless must be used analog in sine waves. There are various types of digital to analog conversion modulation methods are available. The first one is the amplitude shift keying, second one is the frequency shift keying, third one is the phase shift keying. The combination of ASK and PSK are combined together to called as quadrature amplitude modulation. So here this figure shows how a modulation and a demodulation processes happen. If you see this figure, first the data input are given to baseband modulation. So this baseband modulation will add the carrier signal, then given to the radio channel. Then again at the receiver, whatever the carrier signal we are adding, that can be removed here, and whatever the data are transmitted from this side, that can be retrieved at the receiver side. So this is the best suitable example of modulation and demodulation. So there are three types of modulation techniques are there. One is called phase shift keying, second one is called frequency shift keying, and the last one is called ASK, amplitude shift keying. In phase shift keying, the digital data modulates phase of the carrier. In frequency shift keying, the digital data modulates frequency of the carrier. In amplitude shift keying, the carrier modulates amplitude of the carrier. If you see the figure, in ASK, when signal 1 comes, data comes. When signal data is 0, then there is no carrier wave is passed. 1 means signals are transmitted, 0 means no signal at the receiver side. In FSK, when data 1 comes, it comes under a high frequency. When data 0 comes, it converted into low frequency. So here 1 means high frequency, 0 means low frequency. Whereas if you see the PSK signal, whenever the data 1 comes, it starts from 0 degree of angle. Then whenever the data comes, it will change to 180 degree phase shift as like this figure. Now we will see detail about this each method. Before going to see ASK, PSK, FSK, first we should know what is meant by modulation. Modulation is the process of translation the baseband message signal to bandpass signal at frequency that are very high compared to the baseband frequencies. Demodulation, it is the process of extracting the baseband message back the modulated carrier. An information bearing signal is non-deterministic, that is, it changes in an unpredictable manner. So this figure shows the normal signal, second one shows the AM signal, and the third one shows the FM signal. Why we need carrier? Effective radiation of electromagnetic waves requires antenna dimensions compatible to the wavelength. For example, if the antenna 3 kHz should be used for 100 km long, and the antenna 3 GHz carrier is used for 10 centimeter long. That is, whenever we can increase the frequency of transmission, then the antenna size is reduced. Imagine if a 100 kilometer antenna long is there, means how the signal height would be, the antenna size will be much higher. So because of this carrier wave, we can reduce the size of this antenna. Sharing the access to the telecommunication channel resources uses the carrier frequency. First, we can see ASK, that is amplitude shift keying. So if you see this figure, the baseband data is 1001. So the amplitude modulation means whenever the data 1 come, the carrier signals are multiplied and the output is ASK. Whenever the data is 0, then there is no carrier is multiplied, so simply no signal. Then again 1 means the signal. Pulse shaping can be employed to remove spectral spreading. ASK demonstrate poor performance as it is heavily affected by noise, fading and interference. So this is the detailed discussion. In ASK, the amplitude of the carrier signal is varied to represent binary 1 or 0. Carrier signal is a high frequency signal that acts as a basis for the information signal. Both frequency and phase remain constant while the amplitude changes. The peak amplitude of the signal during each bit duration is constant and its value depends on the bit 0 and 1. So depend upon the bits, it can be transmitted and received. Next method, on-off keying. As I discussed previously, in on-off keying, bit 0 is represented by the absence of the carrier and bit 1 is represented by the presence of carrier. The main advantages, disadvantages, applications of this ASK are discussed here. The first advantages is ASK transmitter and receiver are simple to design, because in transmitter we have only one product modulator, so it will look like very simple. ASK needs less bandwidth than FSK. The main drawbacks of ASK are ASK transmission can be easily corrupted by noise, because we can concentrate only on amplitude, because amplitude only consists more noise compared to phase and frequency. The applications of ASK are: early it is used in telephonic modem, then ASK is used to transmit digital data over optical fiber. Next method is the frequency shift keying. As I told previously, whenever the data 1 comes, it is high frequency. Whenever the data 0 comes, it converted into a low frequency format. The frequency of the carrier signal is varied to represent binary 1 or 0. Both peak amplitude and phase remain constant while the frequency only changes. The frequency of the signal during each bit duration is constant and its value depend on the bit 0 and 1. So here the bit duration is constant, but it can change depend upon the bits. So here it is high frequency and it is low frequency. So depend upon the bit, it can automatically changing. Phase shift keying. The last and third method is the phase shift keying. So depend upon the bit, the phase of the carrier is automatically changed. So here if it is 1 means it is starting from 0. Here if it is 0 means it is starting from 180 degree. So in this figure you can clearly identify how the phase shift is carried out. In phase shift keying, the phase of the carrier is varied to represent 2 or more different signal elements. Here both peak amplitude and frequency remain constant. In binary PSK, we have only 2 signal elements, one with the phase of 0 and another with the phase of 180. So here if it is the data is 1, it starts from 0 degree. If the data is 0, then it is a phase of 180. So 1 means 0, 0 means 180. So this shows the example of ASK, FSK and PSK. So in this YouTube video, I discussed what is analog, what is digital, and the main application of digital to analog conversion, why we go for digital to analog conversion, then the importance of ASK, FSK and PSK are discussed. Thank you for watching my video.